Hey guys, Mustached Tom here to review the movie LongLegs. Now, I don't remember seeing any trailers for this movie personally. I saw other people start to review it, then I was like, what's this? So I decided to give it my own check out before checking out anyone else's review. I just saw the thumbnails, essentially. So, this movie follows a detective woman, and she is following this case where these young people are being kidnapped and then the family members are being killed, essentially. And what they begin to receive in, the wake of all of this is this sense of a familial Zodiac killer kind of phenomena where there's this whole decoding system involved. But the compensation for that, or whatever, is that she seems to have this inclination. This happens earlier on in the film, pretty close to the opening, in fact, where she's investigating with this cop. Her fellow cop heads in advance, because she's like suggesting that that's where the killer is confirmed, but with very little to go off of, by the way. She like looked at the house's positioning and the roof or whatever. I think that's why she came to the conclusion she did. So he answers the door and he immediately gets shot. Now, what's so immediately bizarre about that is how she was referring to calling for reinforcements beforehand, and then afterwards, she's the one who's abruptly just begins to advance to chase down this potential killer. So that's sort of our hard or cold opening, or whatever, which one you would want to consider that type. And from there, she gets 2 new partners in her field. And again, she's sort of led along this sort of Zodiac killer thing where they end up getting late to some of the investigations in which they find these codes, and then it does like more of a montage of her figuring out what the codes mean and what that can be in relation to. And through it, we get these subtle, very few flashbacks. One of the earlier ones is with this girl. Like, this is the very, very first one with the girl, and our killer, which we'll just use the same code name, LongLegs, is there to essentially sort of use her in some sort of way. And it's very clear that she was affected to some degree, and that definitely comes back into the forefront as the movie progresses. So eventually, they start to pick up on the clues, they start to get closer and closer, when eventually they do come upon LongLegs himself. They eventually capture him, and they bring him in, essentially, and they have her specifically question him. And in this scene, how he's going about how it was her birthday, and we see more of the flashbacks sort of incline us to more of this reveal that there might be something bigger going on here. That he knows that something else will likely happen after the fact. So he goes on about killing himself, essentially. And she is distraught, but knows that it is not quite over. So not every puzzle piece is, settled now that that has been dealt with. And so, in a, twist of events, I'm not sure if it really is meant to be a twist. LongLegs, while he was alive, subjected her mother specifically to work for him. And if he hadn't continued to, if she hadn't continued to do what she was doing, I guess he would, do something to her, I guess is sort of the blackmail situation that they ended up being entangled in here. Though I have a lot of issues with the sort of end portion of this movie. And now it's her mother who is the other, suspect. She has to deal with that, and she knows the police officer has a child as well, who are concurrently most of the victims, the younger victims involved in these cases. So, eventually it draws her right back to that with the amount of information that she's collected. So she makes her way back, and from this moment on, I'm just flabbergasted by the amount of why did you do this? Why didn't you do this? And it just keeps going and going and going. So what happens is the following. So we discover, through means of their mid-investigation, is that he uses these dolls that seem to have some sort of spiritual power. They do not do a good job in really describing how this works. It somehow just makes the families turn on each other, I guess. And that's in the dialogue. They vaguely hint towards that being the case. So that's the best I can tell you, because that's what's in the movie. So we see when she arrives on the scene, we see the family at the table, or sitting arranged. We have the daughter, young girl. We have the doll, the new doll of her. So she's, currently under this possession, I guess. The father, who is also possessed, and the mother, who is also possessed. 3 of them are charmed, let's say. Let's use that term. They're charmed by the doll to do whatever. So the doll's on the left, the girl's on the left. The cop is in front of her, the mom is in front of her, and to her right is her mom, the one responsible for this new potential crime that is about to happen. She has a gun, by the way. She does not she does not even bother attempting to search. I don't know if the mom ever pulls out a gun herself. I don't remember if she does. I don't think she does. So the cop, our main character, has an opportunity here to, for example, point her gun at the doll, since, she was informed that it's the doll that makes this happen. Take a chance, remove it, or move it with the gun held to the mom. She never does this, and I am so baffled. Why wouldn't you even try? She just sits there. She literally just sits there, and I'm like, what are you doing? You have so much time. They sit there for 5 minutes. That is way too long to be sitting there. And not even attempting anything. Literally anything. She literally just sits there and literally watches as the father abruptly, while being charmed, begins to get up, and the mother, while charmed, decides to get up. So now it's just her, the mom, the doll, and the girl. She could still take the doll away, she could still shoot the mom. Any of these things that would help this family, but no, she waits until the cop kills the wife. And it's why? Why did you let that happen? I would say that she's culpable. If you had a camera in that room, or on her, So I'd be guessing that this isn't like a current film. This isn't like a film that takes place in 2024 by any means, because I I believe most cups do have the camera thing now these days. So yeah, this ending is awful. Like, why? Why did they betray it this way is utterly baffling. It's like, come on. And the thing is like, I don't know the charm's range, so, like, I don't know if it was affecting her too. It didn't seem like it was at all. Um, and yeah, just the amount of time, it's so bizarre. There's not much else to say about that. And I was really sort of beginning to enjoy it, especially when it was doing the soul sort of again. I remember, it's been a while since I've seen Zodiac, but I remember kind of really enjoying Zodiac, and maybe that film doesn't hold up, I wouldn't know, I haven't seen it in a while. But I remember those scenes. I remember, like, yeah, I like the sort of, like, this sort of back and forth chase sort of mentality to the movie, with these hints and clues that the killer is leaving behind for whatever reason they're doing so. But regardless, it's like, okay, I can get behind that whole bit, but it's like, but then you completely fumble the execution of the end. And, you know, you have all of this setup, and, you know, I think that the movie could have better crafted a narrative around these dolls because they keep it way too vague, I think. Like, if you're going to begin to explain, then just explain. Or don't explain anything. Like, you have, that's the thing about horror, right? You either do the two extremes. You either never explain the origin of the thing, or you have to explain the origin of the thing very, very tightly. I don't think that there is a decent in between. It would probably be a really decent challenge to do so. You would have to be a really great writer to find a decent in-between. I don't think that this in-between even comes close to being well written. It is far too vague of an explanation. They just say evil nonsense or whatever. It's like, what does that even mean? What is that, like, and why does it have a radius? And how far, again, is that radius? Because, again, it didn't seem to affect her when she was in the room, too. So it's like, then, like, how does it work? How does it work? I don't know. I'm gonna give this movie, I probably want to say a 4 out of 10. I think they could have built up her character a little bit more. I feel like we can see some of her afflicted behavior come up when she's interacting with other characters, like the daughter that we see in earlier interaction between the two, and how she handles it very awkwardly, and how she talks with her mom before she even knows that her mom's in this whole situation in that way. Like, you can tell that she's not quite, her behavior isn't quite, let's say, normal, quote-unquote. I know it's a terrible term to use, but I mean, I'm not sure what else word I would use in this scenario exactly. But nonetheless, you know, there's definitely something off with our main character, and I think if you're going to go by that, even that needs a little bit more work too. I think that needs a lot more careful setup and a payoff that fits that setup, rather than what we get here again as well, just as equally as the explanation of the doll itself. So I think in that regard, I can only give this movie a 4 out of 10. It's not that great. And that's my review for LongLegs. And if you ended up enjoying that review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second, to my PayPal, where you can help support me, my channel directly. And third, to my Discord server, where you can join, collab, shill, all for free. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.